Hello everyone. Welcome to Six Path Weeb, where anime meets deep analysis and untold theories come to life through the lens of futuristic storytelling and sharp insight. Today's episode dives headfirst into a subject that merges mystery, power, and destiny, Naruko and the legacy of the Three Eyes, a concept wrapped in lore, yet rarely explored to its fullest depth. Buckle up as we decode hidden symbols, dissect timelines, and trace the forgotten roots of power that may have shaped everything we thought we knew. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's get into it. Long ago, there existed a magnificent and overwhelming energy that swept across the world. This energy was embodied in a majestic creature known as the Juubi, a legendary being of immense power and untamed force. For a time, the Juubi's presence brought great uncertainty and imbalance to the world, until a remarkable individual emerged to confront it. This hero was known as the Sage of the Six Paths, or Rikudo Sennin. With courage and wisdom beyond his years, he faced the Juubi in a legendary confrontation that transformed the very fabric of the world. Through extraordinary strength and spiritual mastery, the sage was able to contain the Juubi within himself, becoming the first person ever known as a Jinchuriki, a host to a tailed beast. He was revered as a divine figure and ushered in a new era of peace and knowledge. As the sage neared the end of his life, knowing that such power could not be left unchecked, he took great care to safeguard the world. He separated the Juubi's immense chakra into 9 distinct creatures, each representing a different elemental spirit and energy. These were not monsters, but beings of great potential, each with their own will. The one-tailed raccoon, a creature attuned to the earth, with a restless nature and overwhelming strength. The two-tailed cat, a majestic feline with radiant, ethereal flames. The three-tailed turtle, a guardian of the seas, serene and powerful. The four-tailed monkey, a towering being of volcanic force. The five-tailed dolphin horse, graceful and swift, an elegant fusion of land and sea. The six-tailed slug, a mysterious, resilient creature linked to healing and transformation. The seven-tailed horned beetle, a commanding presence that soared across the skies. The eight-tailed octopus, a powerful and adaptable being of unique form and strength. The nine-tailed fox, the most formidable of them all, possessing immense physical energy and unmatched potential. As for the Juubi's body, its location remains hidden, cryptically described only through the riddle: look towards the night sky, where all are aligned at the beginning of the end. In his final acts, the sage shared portions of his own power, along with that of the Juubi, among those he considered worthy. The sage's ability to perform such incredible feats came at a personal cost, for hosting such spiritual energy brought profound changes. In many ways, he transcended ordinary humanity, becoming something far greater, both in wisdom and presence. One of his most remarkable features was his eyes. Stories differ on whether the sage or the Juubi first possessed them, but these eyes granted extraordinary vision and insight. Referred to as the eyes of the Juubi, they appeared as shining irises surrounded by 6 concentric rings, each marked by curved symbols known as tomoe. These eyes were eventually passed down in 3 distinct forms. The Byakugan, gifted to the ancestors of the Hyuga clan, who valued order, clarity, and tradition. The Sharingan, given to the Uchiha clan, who pursued strength and excellence through determination. The Rinnegan, entrusted to a now forgotten clan, whose legacy faded with time. To further guide the world, the sage also passed on his advanced chakra technique known as Makuten, a nature-based ability tied to life and balance, to the Senju clan, who upheld compassion, unity, and peace. Through the sage's teachings, the art of ninjutsu was born, allowing humans to harness chakra to shape the elements and influence perception. This foundation also led to innovations in technology, powered in part by chakra itself. As centuries passed, cooperation and conflict shaped the lands, and eventually the major shinobi nations emerged, the lands of fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning. Smaller allied countries also formed, each influenced by the teachings of the sage. The 9-tailed beasts continued to roam the world, reminders of a distant era and of the sage's enduring legacy. Although knowledge of the Juubi and the sage faded into legend, their impact shaped the very world. And so, in this modern age of shinobi, as peace and mystery coexist, a new story begins. A story centered on a young girl named Naruko, whose journey will change the world once again. October 10th, 12 years ago. A great disturbance loomed over the Hidden Leaf Village, Konoha, caused by the colossal form of the 9-tailed fox, also known as the Kyubi no Kitsune. With majestic yet overwhelming tail swirling behind it, the mystical creature advanced, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Despite the brave efforts of countless shinobi who stepped up to protect their homeland, the power of the fox was overwhelming. The land was transformed, from a serene forest into a barren stretch where no tree or flower could flourish, as the dense energy radiating from the creature altered the very nature of the terrain. Traditional weapons and ninja techniques proved ineffective. Its chakra repelled nearly all assaults, and any strike that did connect was healed in moments by its exceptional regenerative abilities. Atop the mighty summoning creature, Gamabunta, stood one of the village's most respected figures, Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. He stood tall with unwavering determination in his eyes, a beacon of hope for the people of Konoha. Though Gamabunta was large and fierce, the fox's unmatched speed and strength pushed the Toad Chief to his limits. Bruised and weary, Gamabunta glanced toward Minato. "Minato, something about this doesn't feel right," the giant toad murmured. Minato nodded, his gaze focused on the nine-tailed fox. "I noticed too, Bunta. Look at its eyes. There's no sense of intent, no real awareness. It's like something else is controlling it. And if it were truly serious, I doubt we'd still be standing." Gamabunta responded with a heavy breath. The two understood that this was no ordinary threat. There was something more happening, something deeper. As they prepared for the next phase, a flash of movement brought three figures onto Gamabunta's back. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the former third Hokage, stood alongside his former students, Jiraiya and Lady Tsunade of the Sannin. Jiraiya had entered his sage mode, two small toads perched firmly on his shoulders, while Tsunade cradled a small, swaddled bundle in her arms. Each of them showed signs of wear and exhaustion, yet they stood ready to support their village. "Minato," Hiruzen began, stepping forward with calm resolve, "let me carry out the sealing. I've lived a full life. I spoke with you and Jiraiya about this beforehand, and I can manage the technique just as well." The staff he leaned on transformed into the silent but loyal Monkey King Enma, who nodded in agreement with his summoner's offer. Jiraiya stepped forward next. "As much as I tease the old man," he said gently, "he deserves peace now. But this isn't his burden to carry. Let me do it instead." Before Jiraiya could say more, Tsunade stepped in firmly, shifting the child in her arms protectively. She opened her mouth to speak, only to be stopped by Minato's raised hand. With a bittersweet smile, Minato spoke. "Thank you. I truly appreciate your willingness. But the truth is, this responsibility must fall on me." He turned toward Hiruzen. "Sensei, your strength has served this village for many years. But this sealing must succeed completely, and the process is delicate. If anything were to interrupt it, the consequences could be far-reaching. Only a newborn's chakra system can harmonize with the fox's energy to stabilize the seal." To Jiraiya, he added, "You're needed elsewhere. You're the only one with the connections to maintain our network of allies and informants. If there's more going on behind this attack, you'll be the one to uncover it." And finally, to Tsunade, Minato spoke softly. "Lady Tsunade, you have someone precious to live for. After everything you've lost, I cannot ask you to take this on. You're the only one who can monitor the child's condition after the sealing. Your skills as a medical ninja are unmatched." Tsunade's expression fell, her gaze avoiding Minato's. Seeing her silence, Minato's heart dropped. He knelt in realization. No. She didn't. Tsunade's voice, though composed, carried deep sorrow. "There were complications with the procedure. The task she asked of me came with risks. Her body endured far more than expected. But before she passed, she asked to see her child. And she smiled." From her vest, Tsunade retrieved a small photograph and handed it to Minato. "She told me to tell you she had no regrets. She was proud to love you, the village. And your daughter." She gently pulled back the soft wrap covering the child, revealing a peaceful, golden-haired baby girl, completely untouched by the chaos around her. Her breathing was soft and steady, as if she knew she was safe. Minato took her into his arms and cradled her gently. He gazed at the photograph, tears slowly trailing down his cheeks. "I'm so sorry. For what happened to her," he whispered to his daughter. "And for what I must do. I hope you can forgive me someday." He kissed her forehead with the warmth of a father's love. "I want you to grow up to be strong, no matter what the world throws at you. Choose your path freely. Protect those who are dear to you, and never abandon your beliefs. I'll always love you. And be watching over you. Naruko." Suddenly, the mighty toad boss beneath them trembled uneasily, shifting his stance as Gamabunta looked on with concern. "Minato, I understand your feelings, and believe me, I don't enjoy interrupting this heartfelt moment, lovely child, by the way, but unless you haven't noticed, there's an enormous, quite irritated fox charging straight toward us. Without delay, Gamabunta launched a water-style, toad oil bullet at the advancing nine-tailed fox, drawing its attention just long enough for him to leap gracefully out of harm's way, landing several hundred feet away. Minato and Jiraiya sprang into action. As Jiraiya unsealed one of his many scrolls, Minato gently placed the infant Naruko upon it. Gamabunta was forced to jump again to evade a powerful swipe from the fox's claw. "Hold still, Bunta," Jiraiya shouted with urgency. The adult shinobi could secure themselves using chakra, but the infant Naruko, despite being cushioned in protective cloth, nearly slid off. Surprisingly, she had awakened, not with tears, but with giggles, as though this whirlwind of motion was an exciting ride. Kushios no Jutsu. With a burst of smoke, the majestic slug queen, Katsuyu, appeared beside Gamabunta. "I'll handle the distraction. But please, do hurry," Tsunade urged as she leapt to her summon's head. Katsuyu launched a stream of concentrated acid, which the fox narrowly avoided. Growling in response, it turned its focus to the new challenger. Minato etched a complex array of sealing symbols onto Naruko's abdomen. Turning to face the fox, he called to Gamabunta, "Bunta, I need you to get me closer." The great toad obeyed, albeit anxiously, recognizing the extreme risk. Sarutobi launched a flare to alert Tsunade, then rapidly formed a sequence of hand signals. Receiving the cue, Tsunade nodded, and Katsuyu coated the fox in a wave of thick, gray slime that quickly hardened around it. Slug style, snail shell prison. Though the technique wouldn't hold the beast for long, it gave Minato the opening he needed. He handed a scroll to Jiraiya. "When she's ready, give this to her." Gamabunta charged forward as Minato leapt from the toad's back, hurling one of his signature kunai at the fox's head. It struck its mark, and Minato instantly teleported to the fox's forehead. He completed a series of intricate hand signs, placing his palm firmly upon its surface. An overwhelming sensation passed through Minato as he activated the sealing technique. Behind him, the ethereal form of the Spirit Guardian, a legendary spectral figure of great power, appeared silently. The spirit gazed at him with a rare, solemn nod, acknowledging Minato's sacrifice. Minato responded with a soft, knowing smile, his resolve unwavering. Channeling the technique with precision, he guided the vast energy of the fox into the seal placed on young Naruko. As the sealing began, the fox's aggression faded, as if recognizing what was about to happen. With one final roar of frustration, its immense form dissolved into pure red chakra. The vibrant energy spiraled downward, converging into the center of Naruko's seal, as though it were water being drawn into a whirlpool. The last echoes of the fox's roar faded, and its chakra fully merged with the seal. Minato, supported only by the residual chakra beneath him, slowly began to descend as the spirit guardian faded into nothingness. Before he reached the ground, Gamabunta extended his tongue and gently caught him, placing him carefully on the forest floor. Jiraiya and Sarutobi appeared at his side, with Tsunade arriving moments later and dispelling Katsuyu. She immediately took Naruko from Jiraiya's arms and began a comprehensive medical examination, while the others analyzed the seal's stability. "Vitals are strong, nothing irregular so far," Tsunade murmured while scanning the child. "The seal is holding firm," Jiraiya confirmed, gesturing to the glowing markings on Naruko's abdomen. Sarutobi sighed in relief. Suddenly, Tsunade's expression shifted. "Wait a moment. What is this?" Alarmed, her teammates rushed to her side. Her chakra pathways are expanding at an incredible rate. The seal began to glow with intense red light, forcing her to momentarily step back. The three shinobi instinctively took defensive positions. King Enma appeared beside Sarutobi, his expression serious. "We must be ready. If anything is unstable, we must act swiftly." Sarutobi began forming the first signs of the reinforcement seal, ready to do whatever was necessary to ensure the child's safety. Gamabunta, still standing by, pointed his massive blade protectively but hesitated. Though he hoped it would not come to it, he prepared to intervene if the fox's chakra surged uncontrollably. His loyalty to Minato was unquestionable, and he would do what was needed for the child's future, trusting in Minato's decision. Fukasaku and Shima, now perched beside Jiraiya, focused their sage energy to prepare him for any outcome. But infant Naruko appeared untroubled, her wide eyes watching the swirling red chakra with curious wonder. As the energy reached its peak, the area was bathed in a brilliant red light. Everyone shielded their eyes as a towering column of chakra burst upward into the sky. When the light finally faded, the shinobi cautiously looked back. Naruko lay peacefully, giggling. Physically, she appeared much like any other newborn. However, 9 soft, orange-tinged tails with white tips extended from behind her, and 2 fox-like ears stood atop her head. Her eyes shimmered with a bright hue and vertical pupils. Tsunade quickly resumed her scan. All internal systems are healthy. No signs of distress. But it seems the fox's chakra fused more deeply than expected. Turning to her allies, she added, I need proper equipment and a sterile setting for further diagnostics. Send for Hyashi Hyuga and Inoiki Yamanaka immediately. If they're unavailable, bring someone else from their clans who's skilled in sensory abilities and can be trusted to maintain confidentiality. She looked around. Also, establish field hospitals for the wounded. I'll assist once I've stabilized Naruko. Turning to Jiraiya, she spoke bluntly. Bring me every scroll and record Minato left behind. I'll need them at the hospital. Sarutobi-sensei, please prepare to speak with the villagers. I need time. Sarutobi, undeterred by her commanding tone, nodded without hesitation. He would provide any support she needed. Gamabunta let out a deep breath. Jiraiya, I trust things are in good hands now. That fox put me through more than I bargained for. I'll need days to recover. Thanks for your help, Bunta. You can go now. Fukasaku, Shima, you too, Jiraiya replied gratefully. Shima, now free of her perch, turned to her partner. Time for dinner. Fukasaku groaned. Wonderful. She lightly tapped him on the head as they vanished, and Gamabunta addressed the shinobi once more. Take good care of the little one. We'll meet again when she's older. King Enma gave a silent nod, and the 4 summons vanished in clouds of smoke. As the 3 shinobi prepared to transport Naruko to the hospital, a flash signaled the arrival of Kakashi Hatake. The young Jonin, his mask intact and posture weary, stepped forward. Is the fox truly gone? He asked softly. The elders nodded. Kakashi hesitated before speaking again. And sensei? Sarutobi stepped forward and gently placed a hand on the young Jounin's shoulder, quietly shaking his head. Kakashi's eyes widened in realization as he saw the figure before him. Lowering his gaze, a single tear escaped from his uncovered eye, reflecting the sorrow in his heart. With a solemn but steady voice, Sarutobi said, Young Hatake, I understand this moment carries deep sorrow. We have all lost individuals dear to us during this difficult time. However, I must kindly ask that we compose ourselves for now. There will be time to reflect and mourn, but our responsibilities must take precedence at this moment. He took a breath, his tone steady but empathetic. I have an urgent task that requires your capabilities. I will respect your decision should you feel unready, but I ask you, both as the Hokage and as a fellow comrade of the Hidden Leaf, lend us your strength now. Kakashi bowed respectfully, brushing away the emotion in his eyes. I am ready, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi offered a solemn, almost bittersweet smile. Locate Inoiki and Hyashi Hyuga. If either is unavailable, find the next qualified member of their respective clans. Inform them that the 3rd Hokage requests their immediate presence in Lady Tsunade's private office at the hospital. Although I believe both will come willingly, please tell Hyashi that this is a late request from Minato. Dismissed. Kakashi turned to leave but paused, his attention caught by the infant held securely in Tsunade's arms. He stood quietly, studying the child's distinctive ears and tails. Yet what caught him most were her vivid blonde hair and brilliant blue eyes. He lingered only a moment longer before vanishing in a swift gust of wind and leaves. Jiraiya silently walked over to the resting form of his former student. With bowed head, he unfurled a sealing scroll, performed a sequence of hand signs, and gently sealed the form within, preserving it with care and reverence. Sarutobi and Tsunade bowed their heads in respect, silently paying tribute before the group turned and made haste toward the hospital, moving carefully to protect the precious child in their care. The hospital was in disarray. Injured shinobi and civilians filled the halls, but the arrival of Lady Tsunade brought an immediate shift in the air, renewed hope and determination. Likewise, seeing Sarutobi once more in his Hokage attire brought comfort to many hearts. Before the overwhelmed staff could crowd around, Sarutobi stepped in and raised his hand for silence. To all our loyal shinobi and beloved citizens, I understand your struggles and the pain you've endured. I recognize the hope Tsunade brings with her, and I assure you she will soon be available to assist. However, I must request your patience, there is an urgent matter that requires her immediate attention. Please hold true to your will of fire. We will overcome this, together. The speech ignited a quiet determination, and those who could, raised their fists in silent solidarity. Unfortunately, the commotion had startled the infant in Tsunade's arms. A soft but sharp cry emerged, breaking the silence. Tsunade had taken precautions, covering Naruko with a light cloth to hide her fox-like features. Still, her sensitive ears responded to the noise. Her cry drew the attention of the entire room. Worse yet, in her distress, one of Naruko's tails slipped from beneath the cloth, catching the eyes of all present. An uneasy silence settled like a blanket over the room. Acting swiftly, Sarutobi motioned for his two students to proceed directly to Tsunade's medical quarters, where they could calm the infant. With Naruko gently cradled, the trio exited while Sarutobi turned back to face the stunned room. Gone was the gentle elder, the man before them now was the professor, the famed shinobi strategist. His presence alone commanded absolute silence. "I will not pretend that you did not see the child Lady Tsunade was carrying," he began firmly, making it clear Naruko was indeed a child, not a creature. "Let me make something clear. That child is the hero of this village. Without her, none of us would be standing here today. For now, I must focus on caring for her and for all of you. I will explain further when the time is appropriate." He paused, then spoke with crisp authority. "I am fully aware of how swiftly rumors travel. Let it be known that any mention of this incident outside of this room will be met with severe consequences. That includes both the speaker and the listener. Do I make myself clear?" The room remained frozen. Sarutobi gave a subtle nod. "Good. I leave you with this, a lesson we all learned in the academy: a shinobi must see beneath the surface. Reflect on this as you await my explanation." At that moment, Kakashi returned with Hiashi Hyuga and Inoiki Yamanaka, both showing signs of exhaustion but standing ready. "You summoned us, Hokage-sama?" Adopting a calmer tone, Sarutobi guided them toward Tsunade's office. Inside, the space was a controlled mess: scrolls, documents, and sealing notes scattered about. Tsunade and Jiraiya were standing beside an examination table where young Naruko lay, now cooing contentedly. "Have either of you been able to determine the cause?" the third Hokage asked. Jiraiya shook his head. "No. Nothing in my records or Minato's accounts explains why Naruko is showing these traits." Tsunade turned to Hiashi and Inoiki. "Hiashi, I need you to examine Naruko with your Byakugan. Tell me everything you see, her chakra flow, the seal, and anything unusual. Inoiki, while he observes her chakra, I want you to assess her mind. I need to confirm whether Naruko is in full control or if anything else is present. Be gentle, and do not influence anything you find. Simply report it. Jiraiya and I will continue checking the seal and her physical condition." Hiashi stepped forward. "Understood, Lady Tsunade." He activated his Byakugan and began his analysis. The seal appears intact and properly functioning. Naruko's chakra network is identical to that of a healthy child. Though there are additional flows extending into her tails. These pathways are highly developed, more than one would expect. There are minor fluctuations of red chakra, likely from the fox spirit, but Naruko's chakra remains dominant. The red energy seems to support rather than override hers. His eyes traveled upward. Her mental functions are normal. There are no cognitive anomalies. Suddenly, he paused. "Wait. Her chakra is gathering near the eyes." Hiashi took a step back, momentarily covering his own. Tsunade was instantly beside him, checking for any harm. Thankfully, his vision was unaffected. Hiashi blinked and reactivated his Byakugan. It stabilized. Whatever happened is no longer occurring. As he gazed at the peaceful infant, a flicker of warmth passed through him. She resembled someone dear from the past. Inoiki then approached and carefully placed his hand on Naruko's forehead, activating his clan's technique. He was met with a soft, colorless space, blank and serene. At the center was a small sphere displaying flickering glimpses of light and sound, remnants of her earliest sensations. He studied the images. There are no coherent thoughts yet, just fragments of sights and sounds. She's simply too young to form any structured consciousness. Inoiki smiled gently. This is as it should be. She's a newborn, her mind is a clean canvas. There are no signs of outside interference or foreign presence. The fox spirit, if sealed, has not made itself known. He stepped back and looked to the others. As far as I can tell, Naruko is simply a child. What may emerge in time is uncertain, but for now, she is completely herself. As Inoiki prepared to end his sensory technique, a curious feeling crept over him, as if, for a fleeting moment, he was being observed. Instinctively, he glanced around the still, dark mental space, but saw nothing. Just the same quiet, empty void. Returning to awareness, he shared his observations with the Sannin and the Hokage, including the odd sense of being watched. There were no signs suggesting that Naruko is anything beyond an ordinary newborn, Tsunade-sama. At this stage, there is no indication that the nine-tailed fox has had any psychological influence on her. It's simply too early to make a definitive conclusion. For all we know, the fox might be entirely unable to influence Naruko, seal or not. It wouldn't be capable of doing much with such a young host. The only sensible course of action is to allow Naruko to grow and observe how her development unfolds. If I may offer a suggestion, Hokage-sama? Inoiki continued after Sarutobi gave a slight nod. While Naruko's human characteristics are within normal range, her more unique traits, such as her fox-like features, may impact her development in unpredictable ways. Should those instincts emerge, we may need insight from those familiar with animal-based behavior. The Inuzuka or Aburame clans would be better suited to advise on that front. Sarutobi nodded thoughtfully. He then addressed the clan heads. First, I want to thank you both for your assistance, despite the challenges your own families are facing after recent events. Your contributions were instrumental in aiding Minato's victory against the Nine Tails. Secondly, I ask that this matter be classified as an S-rank secret. Although I expect rumors to spread before the week's end, official knowledge must remain confidential. Lastly, I have a question for each of you, and I ask for your honesty, without influence from my position. Both men listen closely. How do you perceive Naruko? Do you see her as the Nine Tails? Or as a child burdened with a tremendous responsibility? There was a pause as both men contemplated. Hiyashi spoke first. We of the Hyuga pride ourselves on clarity, in both vision and perception. He glanced toward the peacefully sleeping child, then back to the Hokage. Based on what you've told us, and what I've witnessed personally, I do not believe Naruko is the fox. She is simply a child. Inoiki followed. Though I observed no mental imprint from the beast, I remain cautious. It is far too early to predict how things will evolve. Still, I trust your judgment, Hokage-sama. I will withhold final opinions for now and remain open-minded. Sarutobi absorbed their responses carefully. Hiyashi had offered tentative support, though his statement carried a trace of his clan's pride. Inoiki, while more neutral, had chosen patience over prejudice, at the very least, offering Naruko a fair chance. You are both dismissed, Sarutobi said with a respectful nod. They bowed and quietly exited. Hokage-sama? Sarutobi nearly forgot that Kakashi was still in the room. The young shinobi stepped forward. Is there anything else you require of me? Noting Kakashi's subtle glances toward the sleeping child, Sarutobi sighed inwardly. He knew the time would come to share the full truth with him. As a student of Minato, Kakashi deserved to know. Head to the battlefield and assist with medical recovery. Bring back any injured personnel you find, Sarutobi instructed. Ask Mitogai to support you. Yes, Hokage-sama. With that, Kakashi vanished in a flicker of movement. Turning to his companions, Sarutobi noticed Jiraiya watching him with an amused smirk. Nice move, old man. If anyone can keep Kakashi from falling into melancholy, it's that energetic, green whirlwind. Elsewhere. On the outskirts of the battlefield, a very enthusiastic jounin with a distinctive bowl haircut coughed once and then launched into a dramatic speech about the power of youth, as a stunned medic ninja looked on. Back in the office, Jiraiya leaned against the wall and sighed. So, what's next? The usual spark in the Toad Sage's eyes was dimmed. His demeanor, normally bold and eccentric, was subdued, perhaps more than ever before. Tsunade quietly stepped over to her bookshelf, removed a heavy medical journal, and opened it to reveal a cleverly concealed compartment. From it, she retrieved several bottles of sake. She offered one to Jiraiya, tossed another to Sarutobi, who politely declined, and kept one for herself. Well, Jiraiya said, raising his bottle, at least she doesn't wear a snake cape and skulk around in underground labs. Far away, in the village of Sound. A certain snake-themed shinobi paused and sneezed. A subordinate whispered, bless you, only to be glared at in silence. Back in Konoha, Sarutobi refocused the conversation. Minato is gone. The village is in disarray. We've suffered significant damage, not only to our forces but our infrastructure. Had Minato not done what he did, our situation would be far worse. He turned to his students. Based on Hiyashi's and Inoiki's insights, what can you deduce about the seal? Jiraiya answered. Minato's sealing technique is nothing short of genius. It allows the Nine Tails chakra to gradually mix with Naruko's, providing her with a remarkable chakra reserve. The physical traits, the ears and tails, are unexpected, but the seal itself remains stable. The Nine Tails cannot escape. Tsunade nodded. In my studies, I've only seen chakra influence like this in remnants of Orochimaru's old research. This isn't a surface-level phenomenon. The chakra appears to have influenced Naruko on a deeper, biological level. It may enhance her reflexes, senses, and other traits, but we'll only know with time. She paused, then glanced at Jiraiya. There are legends about nine-tailed beasts. Have your informants found anything on how other villages handled their Jinchuriki? Jiraiya nodded slowly. It's all very discreet. Iwa tried something involving their own host. Suna reportedly bound their beast to a host, possibly involving a tea kettle, don't ask. And Kumo? Well, let's just say they have a rather musical Jinchuriki who's fond of rapping. In Kumagakure. A young Jinchuriki sneezed dramatically and, suddenly inspired, jotted down a line in his notepad. My sneeze was loud, it made me proud. Before being lifted and gently escorted from the Raikage's office window by a well-placed arm. Back in Konoha, Jiraiya continued, we can't exactly send letters asking for parenting tips on raising a Jinchuriki. That would be the same as telling the world we've just faced, and survived, an encounter with the Nine Tails, and that our Jinchuriki might be trainable. Sarutobi nodded. And that could invite aggression. Especially from Iwagakure, after Minato's decisive victories during the previous war. Whether this is a matter of nature or nurture, we must tread carefully. Turning toward Jiraiya, his tone softened. I know what you promised Minato. But the village is fragile. If the Nine Tails appearance wasn't random, we need to investigate now, while leads still exist. I won't order you to leave, but I hope you understand what's at stake. Jiraiya stood silently beside him, gazing at the sleeping Naruko. The resemblance to her parents was unmistakable, despite the added traits. He had already lost Orochimaru to ambition, and now Minato. Someone he saw as the closest thing to family. How do you plan to explain her appearance to the village? Jiraiya asked. Sarutobi sighed. We'll have to keep her background hidden. Even from her. Tsunade looked surprised. From her? It's for her own safety, Sarutobi explained. A child can't be expected to keep secrets at that age. If word gets out, our enemies may act. Worse, the clans might fight over guardianship or propose arrangements we're not ready to consider. She needs a normal childhood, as much as we can give her. Tsunade nodded, understanding. Jiraiya remained quiet, the weight of his decision heavy on his mind. I'll address the council later this week, about the village's recovery, my reinstatement, and plans going forward. Together, the three turned toward the peacefully resting Naruko. Each of them understood the road ahead would be difficult for her. But each silently vowed to support and guide her, in whatever way they could. Later that week, the council chambers were filled with a restless energy. Nearly every prominent figure in the village was present, shinobi commanders, civilian leaders, influential merchants, and representatives from the noble clans. The room buzzed with voices raised in disagreement and uncertainty. The recent crisis had shaken the village to its core, and with the loss of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, the future felt uncertain. The tense atmosphere shifted instantly when the great wooden doors opened. Hiruzen Sarutobi entered, clad in his formal Hokage robes, flanked by his trusted advisors Homura and Koharu. Calmly and confidently, the reappointed third Hokage moved to the front of the hall, signaling the start of the meeting. This council is now in session, he declared, his voice firm yet composed. I understand many of you are seeking answers regarding the recent emergency and the Nine-Tailed Fox's defeat. I apologize for the delay, but the time was necessary for initial recovery efforts. Now that stability is returning, I can speak freely. He paused to let his words settle, then continued, first and foremost, I hereby resume the office of the third Hokage, for the time being and for as long as it may be required. I trust there are no objections? The chamber responded with applause and gestures of approval. Even the more reserved clans acknowledged the announcement with respectful nods. Second, it is true that Minato was successful in neutralizing the threat posed by the Nine Tails. The village no longer faces danger from that entity. Applause filled the room again, until a calm yet inquisitive voice rose from the back. Hokage-sama, with your permission, said Shikaku Nara, tactfully interrupting, you said neutralized, not destroyed. Sarutobi anticipated this. Internally, he sighed, but outwardly he remained composed. Indeed, I chose my words with care. I will now explain the full truth. At his signal, Kakashi Hatake stepped forward, gently carrying a small bundle wrapped in a protective cloth. As he unwrapped it, the infant girl revealed within made a quiet cooing noise. The baby had unusual facial markings and a subtle aura that captivated the room. This child, the Hokage said gently, is Naruko Uzumaki. Minato did not destroy the Nine Tails, he instead sealed its power within Naruko, ensuring its influence would be safely contained. A hushed silence swept the chamber. The Nine Tails could not be vanquished through traditional means, but Minato found another way. This child now carries the responsibility of containing its energy, not by choice, but as an act of great courage and sacrifice on Minato's part. He trusted that she would grow up protected and guided, not shunned. The silence quickly broke into murmuring and scattered concerns. Some spoke of the risk, some questioned the seal's integrity, and others, unfortunately, gave voice to harsh judgments. One particularly rash individual even attempted to act impulsively, but before anything could escalate, Sarutobi intervened swiftly and calmly. "There will be no hostility or prejudice against this child," he declared, his tone unwavering. "Naruko is not a danger, she is a child. And more importantly, she is the daughter of the Fourth's legacy. Minato believed she should be seen as a beacon of hope, not fear." He motioned toward Naruko. "The transformation in her appearance is a result of the sealing process, yes, but the Nine Tails has not overtaken her in any way. Her consciousness, her chakra, her spirit, they are wholly her own." He paused again, then added, "The seal was personally evaluated by myself, as well as by Jiraiya and Tsunade. In addition, Hiashi Hyuga and Inoiki Yamanaka have examined Naruko's mental and spiritual integrity using their respective clan techniques. Their findings affirm what I have said: Naruko is a child with extraordinary potential, but no threat." Hiashi and Inoiki gave concise affirmations, offering professional summaries of their observations, though certain unusual details were respectfully omitted at the Hokage's request. Among the clan leaders, Fugaku Uchiha remained expressionless, though his pride was clearly tested by the exclusion of his input. He noted with silent irritation the elevated presence of Kakashi, bearing the Sharingan, a technique sacred to the Uchiha. Sarutobi continued, "Minato's final request was that Naruko be honored as a hero. Without her, the Nine Tails would not have been sealed. She will bear the responsibility of this power throughout her life, and she deserves our respect, not rejection." Danzo Shimura then stood, offering a proposal in his usual calculating tone. "This child possesses great potential. Allow me to raise her within my specialized division, where she can be shaped into a powerful asset for the village." Sarutobi's smile did not reach his eyes. "Absolutely not, Danzo. Naruko will not be shaped into a tool. She will be raised with compassion and free will. Tsunade has already agreed to become her guardian, and when Naruko comes of age, she will be given the freedom to choose her own path, just like the rest of us." Danzo did not respond, though his displeasure was apparent. Sarutobi pressed on. "Furthermore, from this moment forward, any discussion of Naruko's role in the sealing is forbidden. Her appearance may prompt questions, and for those situations, we will provide this explanation. Her traits are the result of an unusual chakra mutation during the Nine Tails' appearance on the day of her birth. Chakra has been known to alter people and environments in unexpected ways." To reinforce this message, Sarutobi summoned Yamato, a calm and composed young shinobi. "Many of you know Yamato possesses would-release techniques, abilities gifted to him due to a traumatic incident in infancy involving malevolent chakra. Yet we do not see him as a threat, do we?" The council remained quiet. "Then Naruko must be treated the same way. Yamato has shown that chakra exposure can result in unique abilities, not corruption. In fact, his abilities proved useful in maintaining control during the Nine Tails attack. Let this be a reminder, not all changes brought by chakra are to be feared." Sarutobi turned solemn. "Additionally, I must clarify that any attempt to harm or isolate Naruko will be met with serious consequences. We are a village of unity and protection, not fear and ignorance." Kakashi, standing beside him once more, gave a quiet but serious nod, his presence underscoring the point. Lastly, Sarutobi concluded, "The official records will state that the Nine Tails was vanquished, not sealed. This is to avoid dangerous speculation by foreign powers. From this moment forward, we focus not on fear, but on rebuilding and guiding our future." The council murmured quietly, most in agreement. The presence of another Sannin in the form of Tsunade further dissuaded any objections. Sarutobi scanned the hall once more. Some of the councillors, such as Shikaku Nara and Shibiabarame, remained outwardly unaffected, but gave no indication of opposition. Sume Inuzuka looked thoughtful, a sharp-toothed grin suggesting mild approval. Hiashi Hyuga remained neutral, while Fugaku Uchiha showed signs of quiet dissatisfaction. The Hokage hoped that, in time, hearts would change. The days that followed moved slowly. The damage done to the village was significant, but repairs had begun. The outer wall, partially dismantled by the Nine Tails force, was being rebuilt stone by stone. Memorials were organized for those who had fallen. Though their names were never to be forgotten, the ceremonies focused on remembrance, not sorrow. Minato's passing drew the greatest mourning. Jiraiya wept openly, comforted by Tsunade and Dan. Kakashi remained reserved but clearly heartbroken. Mito Gai, true to his spirit, promised that the Fourth's ideals would continue to shine brightly. At the final memorial, Tsunade gently carried Naruko forward. As they approached Minato's resting place, Naruko giggled, reaching out with one tiny hand. Some eyes in the crowd narrowed, unable to let go of bias, but the scene touched others deeply. Minato's name was then engraved alongside the previous Hokage in the sacred tomb. Sarutobi offered a final speech, speaking not of sorrow, but of gratitude, reminding all present that Minato's legacy would endure through the choices the village made going forward. As the sun set on the final day of the week, Sarutobi looked toward Naruko, now nestled peacefully in Tsunade's arms. In that small child, he saw the village's greatest challenge, and its greatest hope. Although some individuals had expressed their intention to remain by Naruko's side, circumstances unfolded differently than expected. Jiraiya departed later that week, leaving behind detailed instructions for Lord Third, Hiruzen Sarutobi, regarding how to reach him if absolutely necessary, along with guidance concerning the state and future upkeep of Naruko's seal. While he cited the urgency of supporting his intelligence network as the reason for his departure, Sarutobi sensed that Jiraiya was still processing his emotions over the loss of his former student, Minato, and needed solitude to reflect and recover. Dan was truly delighted when Tsunade agreed to become Naruko's guardian and was looking forward to nurturing and raising her with care. However, during the same week, a mission he participated in went unexpectedly wrong, and he was unable to return. Tsunade did all she could to support and assist him during that time, but the outcome deeply affected her, leading her to develop a strong emotional reaction when confronted with the challenges of the medical field. To make matters even more difficult, every time she looked at young Naruko, Tsunade was reminded of the life she had once envisioned, a life that included Dan, her little brother, her cherished teammates, and beloved students. The sorrow became too much to bear, and with a heavy heart, she took an indefinite leave of absence from the Hidden Leaf village. Despite everything, Tsunade honored her promise to Dan's family. She ensured that his niece, Shizune, would one day join her when she was ready to become her apprentice. It was believed that Shizune provided a connection to Dan that brought comfort rather than pain. Kakashi, dealing with his own challenges, immersed himself in non-stop missions. He attempted to guide new Genin teams, but none met the standards he upheld. When asked, his only response was that the students had not yet reached the potential necessary to move forward. With Naruko's foster guardian gone, her future became uncertain. Danzo, recognizing an opportunity, expressed interest in becoming her caretaker, but this suggestion was firmly declined by Lord Third. Sarutobi himself wished to step in and adopt Naruko, but the village council raised concerns, believing it would display favoritism, especially after Sarutobi had emphasized that Naruko should be treated equally among her peers. Thus, Sarutobi found himself restricted by his earlier declarations. He couldn't proceed with adopting Naruko without revealing information that could lead to greater complications, and he couldn't override the council without risking the stability of the village's leadership structure. In light of these challenges, he made the most balanced decision he could. Sarutobi reaffirmed his existing regulations about Naruko's unique situation and determined that she would be placed in Konoha's orphanage, where she might one day be embraced by a kind and caring family. This choice weighed heavily on him. As he looked down at the small child in his arms, he said softly, "Naruko, you may face many hardships, but I have faith that the will of fire will burn brightly within you. Stay curious, stay powerful, until next time. Let me know if you want something more philosophical, edgy, or themed around Six Path Weeb.